other people also. There's a lot of people out there.
That goes back to the Egyptian times.
You really are a loser.
Hey everybody, welcome. It's that time again. Matt Connarton, Unleashed in the Afternoon. We are live on WMNH 95.3 FM, emanating from downtown Manchester, New Hampshire, streaming at WMNHradio.org. You can also find WMNH on the TuneIn app, so you can take us wherever you go on your mobile device. It's a very handy thing to have. The app, not the mobile device, although that's handy too. Of course, let's see, we are on Channel 97 Comcast in Manchester, and of course, you can watch and listen via Facebook on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page with the Facebook Live feature, which is quite wonderful. That's one of the ways that you can... don't bother plugging that in, John. Yeah, I'll explain later. Yeah, don't bother. Okay, so let's see. Call us, 603-250-6007. It's... let's see. I'm distracted by what he's always up to mischief. It's Friday, August 24th, 2018. And, of course, 603-250-6007, or you can opine in the Facebook live chat, or you can tweet me anytime at Matt Connarton. My friends, I have come to a conclusion about this, a little bit of a change in, Jon Hopwood is here, a little bit of a change in attitude about this whole, the future of Trump and the Trump presidency as things continue to unfold, as, you know, now, Weisselberg, you know, the CFO for the Trump organization, has been, granted immunity for, what he has to say. And of course, Pecker from the National Enquirer granted immunity. I had up until recently kind of taken the attitude that, you know, ultimately nothing's gonna take down Teflon Don because, well, I mean, for one thing, you know, his entire base of voters will believe in him no matter what comes out. I mean, you know, the guy, you know, he had sex with a porn star, but the evangelicals love him anyway, just as one example of that. But also, too, I just didn't think that, you know, we see people around him going down like Manafort, like Cohen, etc. But I just didn't feel like, you know, nothing's going to actually get to the president. Plus, you know, you've got the Republican Party in control of Congress, so, you know, they're able to insulate him somewhat and whatnot. But then I was thinking about it yesterday, and it's starting to feel different to me. It's starting to feel like this whole thing is kind of picking up momentum. And as we continue to add more cooperating witnesses to the list, and, you know, and don't forget, you know, and of course, to those who would say it's a witch hunt, there's what Scarborough said.
One of these witch hunts where you just walk out of your front door and all the witches are just landing in your front lawn.
Right there in the yard.
But also, the more that I read about this, the more I really have come to the conclusion that I do think it's inevitable that Trump goes down. And I don't say that out of, you know, I don't consider myself pro-Trump or anti-Trump. I just, you know, I'm an independent, and I call BS on whomever I see fit. And in Trump's case, I see fit quite often. But actually, for selfish reasons, I don't want the Trump presidency to end, because in terms of this radio show, I mean, President Pence is going to be awfully boring. I might have to cut this down to 10 minutes a day, go on, you know, 4 to 4:10 every day. But the other thing that I've come to realize, though, is the inevitability of it. Robert Mueller is not going to be who takes down Trump. It's going to be Barbara Underwood, the New York Attorney General. Those wheels are in motion, and that's what's going to ultimately take this president down. And there's not going to be any pardons. At one point there was a lot of talk in the media, can the president pardon himself? I didn't know until the Trump administration. I had always believed,
right,
maybe I should have paid more attention in civics class, that the president's pardon power, which is vast. I thought it was so vast.
Me too.
Yeah.
We thought that it was all crimes, but it's only federal.
Yeah. So there's nothing he can do. For example, if he could, because there's all this hinting around that he might pardon Manafort, and he talks about Manafort like he's this great guy, but
I thought he didn't know him.
Barely, yes. But if Manafort, and as it stands right now, Trump could pardon him. But if Manafort then is tried and convicted by the Southern District of New York, there's nothing Trump can do about that.
No, Southern District of New York is the U.S. Attorney's office. You mean
New
York Department of Justice?
That's what I meant. Yes, thank you. But so and then there's nothing. And again, like I said, I thought his powers. The president technically he couldn't even fix a parking ticket here in Manchester. He doesn't have that kind of power. Only for federal crimes. So I didn't know this until the Trump administration, like I said, and now I'm realizing the inevitability of all of this. We're seeing, the increased momentum with the Russia probe, of course, with what Mueller is doing, but also, and obviously they're sharing a lot of evidence. Barbara Underwood, the state AG in New York, shared quite a bit of evidence, apparently, with Mueller's team.
As investigations do. Federal, state. Yeah.
And this self-dealing, which, by the way, Fred Boenig, hello to Fred from thedailyripple.org, he's called into the show and talked about it, the self-dealing that the Trump's quote-unquote charity is very guilty of. And also hello to Alex O'Connor in the Facebook live chat from the band It's Been Real. There are crimes here.
Well, yeah. He's been linked to a federal crime now with Cohen.
Well, with the...
no, he's an unindicted co-conspirator. We understand that he has committed the crime.
The only thing...
It's understood, but he's a president of the United States.
Right. Well, the other aspect of that, too, as far as that goes, is typically campaign finance violations don't end up with someone in prison.
Sometimes,
they end up
very
with
rare, unless it's an egregious pattern of...
It's pretty rare. It's pretty rare. But even if we put all that aside...
Yeah, usually it's the underling that gets the chop.
Yeah, which is how Trump likes it. But even if we put all that aside, Barbara Underwood is the one who's going to take Trump down. I truly believe that. That will be the death of the Trump presidency. And like I said, my thinking on this has shifted a little bit. I used to think, man, nothing ever quite gets this guy. So many times over the course of the presidency, something has happened and we find out something is revealed. Trump's caught in some kind of lie. And so many of us go, well, this might be the turning point, right? There's no escaping for him out of this. And then, but he continues to just skate by, declares it fake news, nothing to see here, and goes on about his day. But I'm starting to feel like, and it started actually on the day I started feeling this way on the day of the of Cohen and Manafort on the same day, and their fates being somewhat sealed. At that moment, I felt a shift. There's a weight to this now. There's a heaviness to this that wasn't quite there before. And then I was thinking about it last night, and I was reading about what's going on in New York, and as that investigation, in fact, there's a bit of additional news today.
Is that about the Cohen? They're going to have him with the Trump Foundation?
Yeah.
That's New York State, because it's a corporation incorporated in the state of New York.
Yeah, CNN is reporting New York tax investigators subpoena Micah Cohen and Trump Foundation probe. So that's what's going to get him, and there's not going to be anything he can do about it. And not just him, his family, Ivanka and Don Jr. and Eric and Tiffany never got involved in the family business. She may in the end be the smartest of the bunch.
That's Marla Maples' daughter, right?
Yeah, she must be. Yeah. The one
we
that,
never hear of.
Right, the one that I didn't even know what she even looked like until the Republican convention. I'd never even seen her.
Oh, you didn't see the photos of me when I dated Tiffany?
No, I remember hearing about that. Quite the romance there.
Well, with my
But,
memory problems, I have a feeling they're photoshopped.
They very well could be. That's a shame to not even have the memories. Wow. But yeah, so that's what I think. I do think there's an inevitability to this now. And again, I'm not. I mean, I'm only half kidding when I say, for the good of the show, I don't want the Trump presidency to end. I mean, Pence is about as milquetoast as. Don't get me wrong. I'm only half kidding. The thing about politics is there's always plenty to talk about.
Oh, you'll love Pence.
But you
Mr.
think so?
Fundamental evangelical.
Yeah, well, I mean, there'll be plenty to pick on him about, but he's just not this larger than life character that Donald Trump is. I mean, he's sort of the anti-Trump, really. I mean, he's very low key and unassuming, but I think underneath it all, fundamentally evil. But so we'll have to work that angle with him. But although, having said that, prior to Pence becoming president, things will get increasingly exciting in the days leading up to that. Certainly, it's going to be something. So
yeah, there's also the issue of I guess Cohen made a $50,000 payment to some tech company under. Well, this would be federal, I guess.
Oh,
under. Not the usual channels, and they don't know who the tech company is yet. And nobody's speculating as of now.
Right.
One thing you notice about Mueller, who's incredibly disciplined and is a great prosecutor, and even though our friend Dave doesn't like him because he defended FBI whistleblowers, he does a very thorough job. He doesn't leak.
Right.
We're not leaking.
No, that's true. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed in the Afternoon. Who's this?
It's your old pal Fred, and you're right. You are 100% right. Barbara Underwood graduated first in her class at Georgetown, and when she takes them down, even when Pence comes in, it'll be a state charge, and the president can't pardon someone on a state charge.
Yeah.
He also can't avoid a lawsuit in a civil matter because, Paula Jones v. Clinton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. Do you think does it feel different?
But that would be criminal, wouldn't it? Criminal fraud.
Well, fraud. Yeah, I mean,
so
fraud.
That's not civil. So maybe the Roberts Court will find some out for the president.
Does it feel different to you now, Fred? Like in the last few days, does it feel like there's been a shift, or is this just kind of on the trajectory that you always expected? To me, it feels different. I feel like this is a genuine inflection point.
Well, that's because they're actually going to see. They actually have all the dirt. I mean, everybody else was speculating. We don't know. Mueller hasn't said a word. I mean, everything that's come out from Mueller has been from some speculation because he hadn't said a word.
Right.
I mean, what he has. But these guys have the books.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And when you have the books and you have the guy who wrote the books now flipped.
Mm-hmm.
With immunity.
Weisselberg.
You have,
his
attorney, his accountant, who's had the books forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have almost everything, and you will have everything once Cohen says, okay, this client, this attorney privilege thing, who knows if he can actually turn those in, because that would still be part of the president's stuff, but.
Right.
But the fact that all the other stuff he has, the million documents they have all that.
Yeah.
And they're going to most of Trump Tower was owned by Russian because in New York you can buy with shell corporations.
Yeah.
You can buy real estate. And most of those shell corporations that own Trump Tower were a big chunk of them were Russian oligarchs and the Russian mob guys who were all laundering money.
Yeah.
So, and everybody he's connected with is, involved with money crimes. Sater, all those guys, they're all money launderers, all of them. And they're all getting charged with financial crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So yeah, this is different. This is very different.
Yeah.
This is money. This isn't, did he know the Russians? Did he talk? Did he know? That's going to be the piddly thing. They're going to get him on white collar.
Right.
And
Right.
there's going to be a ton of it. The fact that the man stole from his charity,
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that he had to pay $25 million in fraud just makes you realize, the businessman is not the businessman. You know, he's a crook.
Yeah, he's a con man in an expensive suit. That's why the evangelicals
Right,
love
and
him.
they have everything. They have all of it now.
Yeah.
You know and the team that works for Mueller is the IRS A team, the same team, probably not the same people, but the same level of ability as the guys who took down Al Capone. I mean, it's
right.
IRS's A team.
Right, because that's ultimately, I'm no expert on Capone, but I believe, actually my mother is, because she loves that.
A lot about
she
Al.
loves that kind of stuff. But if I'm not mistaken, isn't that how they got to Al Capone
Sure.
was tax evasion?
Tax evasion.
Typically, that's how they did get organized criminals.
Because they couldn't nail him on anything else, but they got him on that. So that was the go-to.
Yeah, because you're never there when they kill the person, you know. But it's always a money trail.
Right.
They only get people like recently when you get people flipping, which our friend Donald Trump, our favorite president, says is disgusting and should be illegal.
He hates flippers.
So
yes.
So in other words, Rudy Giuliani shouldn't have allowed to go after John Gotti or that. But that's a relatively recent phenomenon. You know, people would die or be killed before you could connect somebody to an actual murder. So you went after the financial crimes, and then accountants would wind up in trunks, stuff like that. But
yeah, and Trump is so
and nobody's going down for him. Nobody's going down for him because they all watch.
They're all flipping,
and they all know that he's not good on his word, and he wouldn't save your butt for anything.
Exactly.
He'd throw his own kids under the bus. So
well, look at how he treated people he dealt with in business. I mean, just. I'm not talking about millionaires or billionaires, craftsmen,
contractors,
tradesmen, contractors.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean, and we're not talking about building a huge building and going, oh, you screwed this up. Everything. He went after everybody.
Yeah.
But,
well, I was going to say, too, and he's so unself-aware, though, about the flipping thing that, he made, I might play the clip later, he made that comment to Ainsley Earnhardt on Fox, complaining about flippers, how much he hates flippers, and kind of, I don't know if he used the word, but he kind of implied that they're cowards for flipping and whatnot. He's so unself-aware, it doesn't even occur to him that he sounds like a mob boss.
Well, that's
when he's
who he
talking
pretends
that
he
way.
is from The Godfather. Because you remember Roy Cohn was considered a mob lawyer.
Yeah, that's true, and Roy Cohn was his mentor.
But it's just because when you're in the real estate industry, that's who you had to deal with.
Yeah.
They went corporate themselves. I can bore the hell out of you about Times Square, why it was never developed for like 30 years, and the fight over the West Side Yards, which Trump once had a stake in. Hey, did you talk about Alpha Bank, the Russian bank that's associated with Trump? 3 of the oligarchs sued Steele, who wrote the dossier, and then the district court.
Fred probably knows about that because Fred, you watch all this stuff very carefully.
Well, one of the things that you have the biggest part of this, even more important than those oligarchs, is the history of the Russians coming into Brooklyn. The Russian mob coming in because
Vika might say it's Ukrainians.
And then all that money came in with them, and that's where Sater comes in, and all those guys. They're all part of the Russian mob.
It's just not Russians. It's also Ukrainians and other people from the former Soviet Union.
All right.
Because Manafort was a lobbyist for Ukraine.
The old Soviet Union.
Right.
Yeah.
The people, the old bosses. Because they used to call them flaming red party bosses, and then they reinvented themselves after Yeltsin into gangsters, and then you got the oligarchs with the incredible money generated by oil, precious metals, and all that stuff. And Putin brought his own group in. They threw the old
oligarchs
bosses,
out,
who were more with Yeltsin.
Yeah,
remembering that Yeltsin.
Well, that's how he got the oil company.
Right.
That's how they got Rosneft. They made up some bull crap about the guy who owned it, and they took it.
Oh yeah, and they just put him in jail and take it.
Put him in prison.
Right. Wow. Well,
I'll let you guys go, but I just wanted to say you're right. It's I always thought, but in the end, in the end, it will have been Stormy Daniels because she's the one who got Michael Cohen in it. So it'll be Stormy Daniels in the end, no matter who the person who actually take him down, but it'll be because of Stormy Daniels and Avenatti.
That's true.
They're the ones who brought it all up and it's all about this payment.
And when we have President Avenatti in 2021, he's just here in New Hampshire.
It could happen.
Stormy Daniels broke one president and made the other. Actually, she made both
And
of them.
she'll be the first lady.
In our hearts.
In
our hearts.
Yeah, or the VP.
Yes, exactly.
I think she'd make a great
All right,
VP.
guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks, Fred. All right, Fred Bonig from thedailyripple.org.
He's right about the condos. I just made a quick thing.
Yeah.
But where there's lots of money,
Oh, it's all fake news.
It was
though.
the Saudis in Atlanta in the 70s.
It's all fake news.
Lands.
Trump is as pure as the driven snow. How dare you? That's why he was anointed by God.
Actually, he's more like snow that a dog wee-weed.
Oh, my goodness. Some yellow snow.
His supporters are those children that would, take the challenge and eat the yellow snow.
By the way, someone else who flipped, and I just want to I want to give props to the MSNBC YouTube channel. I'm not going to play this clip, but I love this because David Pecker from the National Enquirer
I'm going to have to censor you.
also flipped. That's his name. I'm sure he had a very rough time in high school. So MSNBC posted a video today with this title: Pecker's past practice puts POTUS in a pickle, precludes Pulitzer. So I just, I love that. And I apologize for my plosive P's, but there's just so many P's. Some of them were bound to be plosive. So props to MSNBC. That's the best, because usually their YouTube, the titles on their YouTube videos are just generic and in good taste.
We have breaking news. Eddie Edwards, who's never gotten back to me about coming on the show, says, I will stand with President Trump, in a message issued at 2 p.m.
Oh.
What happened at 2 p.m.? I was down at the VA hospital.
I don't know. Oh, hello to Peter White from The Morning Show with Peter White, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. I almost said The Morning Show with Peter White and the Moose, but those days are gone.
I have the Moose's cup right here.
You do? Wow. That's wonderful.
We'll see.
You think
They'll
he'll be
get
back?
back together?
I don't know. The Moose, he was pretty upset the other day.
Keep on stabbing me in the back.
That was an angry Moose.
But,
But you know what? But
let's not talk about that.
I hope their friendship rebounds. Even more importantly, that's what.
We'll see. Everything will work its way out.
That's what I think matters most. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and play that clip. Oh, Fred just sent me something funny. I'm going to play this clip though of for those who haven't heard it. And there's a deeper reason too. Aside from the fact that Trump literally sounds like a mob boss here. There's also a more significant problem why this is so strange and inappropriate and all of it. But here, this is Trump. He's talking to the person whom I usually refer to as the token blonde who sits in the middle, because she's from Fox and Friends. And, the Fox and Friends, they've had the same formula for 20 years. You got Steve Ducey, Brian Kilmeade, and the token blonde who sits in the middle. But she does actually have a name. It's Ainsley Earnhardt.
That's her name?
That's her name, Ainsley Earnhardt.
She related to Dale Earnhardt?
I don't know.
Or Air...
Were you
thinking of the race.
Were you about to say Amelia Earhart?
No, Dale...
Because you are dyslexic.
Yeah, so who's the great race car driver? And his son was...
No, you had it right. Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt
Is
Jr.
he related? Because, NASCAR's big and big Republican.
I bet.
Old Bush type of Republican.
I bet the Fox News audience is also pretty fond of the old NASCAR. But anyway, so here's this clip.
And Michael Cohen had, I guess, a taxi business, and somebody reported him for some things in his taxi business, and that's how this started. And they put the 2 counts of campaign violations in there, but a lot of lawyers on television, and also lawyers that I have say that they're not even crimes.
If you're saying the payments, if they're not illegal, then why would he use that information for a plea deal?
Because he makes a better deal when he uses me, like everybody else. And one of the reasons I respect Paul Manafort so much is he went through that trial. They make up stories. People make up stories. This whole thing about...
Let's stop there for a second. We'll play the rest of the clip. But so he's talking about how he respects Paul Manafort so much because Manafort didn't flip.
Yeah, you have to.
This is mob stuff.
But you have to remember, this guy Manafort is one of the most notorious fixers and lobbyists, which means he goes around bribing people, giving money.
Yeah.
Both above and probably under the table.
Yeah.
This guy was notorious. I first heard about him in the McCain campaign in 2008 when he was thumping the tub for Ukraine back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was notorious. He was a well-known as like a font of corruption.
Ooh, a
But,
font of corruption.
He identifies with people like that.
Oh, yeah, well, apparently.
Flipping, they call it. I know all about flipping. For 30, 40 years, I've been watching flippers. Everything's wonderful, and then they get 10 years in jail, and they flip on whoever the next highest one is, or as high as you can go. It almost ought to be outlawed. It's not fair.
All right, so there's
Sammy
more to
the Bull.
this.
Sammy the Bull. You know, they got him for killing 9 people. Isn't it terrible that he flipped on John Gotti?
Yes, it's well. Now so not only does he sound like a mob boss, but here's the other thing about this that is so significant. Think about this. This is the president of the United States sitting there openly discouraging people from cooperating with law enforcement.
Right, and he is the first magistrate of the republic. That's what,
Yes.
if you read the founding fathers for a long time,
Yes.
they call him first magistrate.
This is the president of the United States doing this. The Mr. Law and Order, by the way. You know, he's always talking about law and order, law and order.
Well,
but
that's
he's,
for people of color.
Of course. Well, yeah, I think there is something implicit in that. But this is a president talking about don't cooperate with law enforcement. You do your time like a man, you know, like Paul Manafort. Paul Manafort should be your hero. You know, he's this notorious criminal, but he's taking his medicine and he's not flipping on anybody. You know what? Actually, I think Paul Manafort, maybe he deserves a pardon. But we'll see.
Yeah, and you have to remember that the old code of, what is it, omerta or something? Which,
Omerta, I think is how you say it.
Silence is because it was enforced by incredible violence that you'd lose your life or your wife and children would be killed.
Yeah.
They would punish you and punish you immediately.
But seeing Trump sitting here talking like this, I mean, watching the video, I'm waiting for Silvio Dante to come wandering into the frame. Of course, you know, the guy who plays him hates Trump, but just Steven Van Zandt. But I mean, this is mob stuff. This is pure mafia talk here.
He's watched The Godfather too much.
Probably, yes.
Because if somebody's going to spend 5 years like Michael Cohen, or 10 years or 15 years in jail because of a taxi cab industry, because he defrauded some bank,
that's what it's
the
about.
last 2
Listen to how he says that, by the way. Because he defrauded some bank. What's the big deal about bank fraud? That's not a big deal. He defrauded some bank. Who cares?
But you know, when we were talking the other day when Mike Doyle called in, you've got to listen to the inflection of his voice and the language he uses. Now you're seeing the actor. He has absorbed these aspects of culture because this man lives in a world of unreality. I mean, there's reality there, but
Yeah.
it's also unreality. How many people were born into money like that?
Right.
How many people bought their way, and he could never buy his way into society or anything like that.
Yeah.
He couldn't.
Yeah.
But so he's identifying, you know, kind of a Howard Sternish type of, you know, the streets in New York. Something
Right.
he isn't. But, you know, he's so much of Queens where he popped out of.
Yeah, it's that
in
outer
his
borough
way.
thing that a lot of people respect. That's why I think he's popular with those folks.
Well, Archie
you know?
Bunker was from Queens.
Right.
Yeah.
704 Hauser Street.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's an actual house in Queens.
It is, yes.
were the tiny ones. You know, campaign violations are considered not a big deal, frankly. But if somebody defrauded a bank and he's going to get 10 years in jail or 20 years in
10 years, he can do that standing on his head.
jail, but if you can say something bad about Donald Trump and you'll go down to 2 years or 3 years, which is the deal he made, in all fairness to him, most people are going to do that.
Well,
and
that's
I've
true.
seen it many times. I've had many friends involved in this stuff. It's called flipping, and it almost ought to be illegal.
It almost ought to be illegal.
But see, the thing is, they're not going to give him a deal unless he actually can produce the goods.
Right,
This is
right.
what this guy. It's a world of utter unreality. This is beyond. This is a raging egomaniac, and he has narcissistic syndrome. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a word for that.
Yeah.
And you know, they throw stuff like that around. This guy is just disconnected from it all.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah, clearly.
It's each day, you know.
Yeah.
Each day it gets more ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right, you know.
And
Listen to that.
And what's his big problem with flippers anyway? What's the big problem unless he's worried about something
That
they're
they
gonna,
have the information.
Right. It's not even like he's not even clever.
A guy like that, a guy with that money's never not going to be convicted on anything. Yeah, you can't frame somebody with money like that.
Yeah.
You can frame some white, black polka dot off the street that doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
Or if you wanted to frame a middle class person, you could, because they don't have the access to money.
Right.
And Perry Masons and the court of last resort are very far. It's a thing of fiction.
Yeah. Now let's. We should hear the end of the clip, because I'm sure. Because she is a journalist from Fox News, I'm sure Ainsley will
This
have
is Dale Earnhardt's daughter.
Let's assume she is, just for fun. Sure. Yeah, why not?
You get 10 years in jail, but if you say bad things about somebody, in other words, make up stories, if you don't know, make up stories, they just make up lies. Alan Dershowitz said, compose, right? They make up lies. I've seen it many times. They make up things, and now they go from 10 years to they're a national hero.
Oh, Ainsley Earnhardt. She didn't have any kind of follow-up question for the president. My goodness. Well, how shocking.
Does she ever?
I doubt it. I was hoping she might commit an actual act of journalism and say, Mr. President, do you realize you sound like you're a mafia boss right now? Fred Bonig says, yes, I'm sure he has had lots of friends that had to flip. How many of your friends, Matt, have flipped? Well, I'll tell you what.
Back in the schoolyard with like 6th grade or something?
Anybody ever flips on me, I'll
hex them.
Yes, I will. I will hex them.
I've threatened to hex many a person.
Yes.
They're still harassing me.
Oh, my goodness.
They've
flipped on you. That's That's terrible. Wow. I mean, I'm reminded of because The Sopranos. I love The Sopranos. I'm reminded.
It is a great show.
I'm reminded of Tony Soprano saying to, I won't say his full name on FM, Big P. We'll just say Big P when they're on the boat. The Sopranos fans will know the scene. They're on the boat, and Tony says to him, "When did they flip you?" And then Big P, of course, plays dumb for a minute, like, Tony, what are you talking about?
Back in the 40s and 50s, the word was stool pigeon and singing, which was, out of the crime lingo when they were talking about, the people that would go in front of HUAC, the House Un-American Activities Committee, and name names. Of course, in the mythology that the liberal Democrats and the left built up, they were all innocent, which is not true. And interestingly, I recently was rereading a book where so many of the Bolsheviks and Mensheviks were put in Tsarist jails, and people were jailed, left-wing labor activists and communists. They spent so much time in prison, they did pick up the lingo, whether it's Russia or the United States, of the criminal class. Because they were outlaws. But so now he's using a Sopranos riff,
Yeah.
rather than stool pigeon. It's funny how popular culture has such a huge impact on consciousness.
I actually want to play the scene, but I can't because I'm sure there's profanity in it. But I just think it'd be. I'm gonna have to isolate the clip and put it into the sound bank for Monday. Tony saying to Big P, "When did they flip you?"
But it ought to be illegal.
Yes, it ought to be cooperating. According to the President of the United States, I don't want to overstate this, but according to the President of the United States, cooperating with law enforcement ought to be illegal. That literally is what he's saying. This is the President saying this.
It's a national nightmare and a national disgrace.
Yeah.
And you got to give it Sessions is not a friend of mine or a hero, and you're even more withering. But he stood up to this guy. And if he were to, I was just reading, if he was to can him, that would break his support in the Republican Senate caucus.
Yes. Well, I do loathe Jeff Sessions. I feel he is a clinical sociopath. But because of that, one of the few things that Trump does on a consistent basis that I enjoy is publicly torture this man rhetorically. And now Trump has been chiding Jeff Sessions to look into the corruption of his political foes, tweeting, "Come on, Jeff, you can do it." It says here, this is from Mediaite, it appears that the rift between Trump and Sessions has not yet healed. As is his want, President Trump started his day on Twitter, and after some boasting about the state of the U.S. economy, The commander-in-chief turned his ire to the embattled Sessions, ostensibly asking why the Department of Justice hasn't been looking into what Trump sees as coordinated political attacks he's received. Trump tweeted this. It's in two parts. First, Department of Justice will not be improperly influenced by political considerations. That's in quotes because he's quoting something Sessions said. Jeff, this is great, what everyone wants. So look into all the corruption on the other side, including deleted emails, Comey lies and leaks, Mueller conflicts, McCabe, Strzok, Page, Orr. And then in the second part, he tweets, FISA abuse, Christopher Steele and his phony and corrupt dossier.
That's such bull.
The Clinton Foundation, illegal surveillance of Trump campaign, Russian collusion by Dems, and so much more. Open up the papers and documents without redaction? Come on, Jeff, you can do it. The country is waiting. So that was his newest chiding of Sessions. It says here it's worth noting that Trump seemed to sarcastically laud Sessions' comment of not being, quote, improperly influenced by political considerations, unquote, before asking him to look into the, quote, unquote, other side, or in other words, be influenced by politics. In any other administration, a president openly asking his Department of Justice to investigate his political rivals would seem like kind of a big deal, but this isn't your normal administration. Sessions released a statement defending the job he had done leading the Department of Justice after Trump criticized the job he was doing in an interview with Fox's Ainsley Earnhardt. Coincidentally, ongoing drama between the U.S. president and attorney general was being covered on Trump's favorite news program, Fox and Friends, just a moment before he released those tweets. And then there's an update here. Trump wasn't done tweeting vitriol toward his sitting AG, adding, ex-NSA contractor to spend 63 months in jail over classified information. Gee, this is small potatoes compared to what Hillary Clinton did. So unfair, Jeff. Double standard. Oh, my goodness.
So.
Poor Jeff Sessions.
Yeah.
What are you showing me? I can't.
Well,
here,
since the president doesn't believe that anybody should flip.
Yes.
John Gotti got rid of Paul Castellano, the mob boss.
Mm-hmm.
He shot him to death outside the Sparks Steakhouse.
Yes, yes.
So that's why you have a rule of the law. That's so presidents don't, get removed like in third world banana republics.
Yes, yes.
And yeah, the Clinton era, Bill Clinton, whatever. So much changed then. New York came back from a hellhole that anybody under the age of 40 can never understand.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand all this stuff about like the mob, the violence, the incredible penetration of every level of society, right up to the U.S. Supreme Court, it said. And those were Democrats. It was said about.
Yeah.
But here he is, Paul Castellano, and John Gotti becomes boss.
Yep.
Yep. Shot dead. Is that the way? Well, you wouldn't want to flip.
Right.
Well, he was indicted for tax fraud.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was more complicated than that, but we won't get into that type of stuff.
Yeah.
The romance of the mob.
Yes. And then there's sort of as an addendum, there's a story on Mediaite here from today. Trump and Sessions reportedly ignored tensions with each other during a White House meeting. That must have been awkward. New reports suggest...
Not really. He's so short, he probably could just look right over him.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he probably didn't know he was there.
They probably he probably ordered that the New York City phone directory they have him sit on, be taken away from him, so you can barely you just see some eyebrows over the table.
Yeah.
Top.
A source close to the meeting said no acknowledgement, not even a passing mention of the morning's events, to the point where I don't know if Trump, was aware of Sessions' statement. So Trump may not have even been aware that Sessions kind of softly did hit back at Trump and saying that because the odd thing too about because Trump seems to be, it's almost as though Trump is accusing Sessions of being partisan against his own party, right? Because he's implying that Sessions isn't investigating any Democrats. It seems to be what he's saying.
Yeah, because he doesn't have the time to because of this. I was going to say jamoke.
Oh, my goodness. Jamoke?
Well, it means various things.
I think you can say jamoke.
Sometimes it refers to a reefer,
Oh, my. Well, I think you can say that.
And things that look like a reefer, if you think about it. Which
my.
I don't. Hey,
I'm glad you cleared that up.
Here we go. The boss is dead. You have to understand, I lived in New York, what was it, 80s? It's back not in the city in this century. But back then, a crime boss was a celebrity, just like Al Capone. They say Al Capone says history books. Al Capone got more letters, fan mail, than Clark Gable. And Charles Bukowski, one of the great poets, so that we don't know about in America because he wrote about people working in factories or on Skid Row. He's loved in Europe. But he wrote about the 30s that, when Dillinger got killed, everybody was following Dillinger like he was Joe DiMaggio, in a hitting streak.
Oh, yeah.
And then when he gets killed, everybody's like upset.
Yeah.
Because when you're so downtrodden, these are all white people, mostly in America, then you're rooting for anybody that will take on the government, the G-men, or whatever.
John Gotti, did you mention Gotti already?
John Gotti killed Castellano.
Yeah, because Gotti was a hero in his neighborhood. I mean, he used to do a fireworks display every 4th of July, and they loved him.
Whitey Bulger was a hero down in Southie, but yet and claimed that he kept drugs out of there while running all the drugs. And
right.
Let's not get into him.
Yes.
That's a whole story. Boston's its own unique culture.
Well, you know who's weighed in on this whole Trump versus Sessions thing is George Conway. For those who don't know, if that name isn't familiar, George Conway is the husband of Kellyanne Conway, and I continue to be fascinated by the dynamic in their marriage, where Kellyanne Conway's husband continues to publicly on Twitter chide the president and criticize him, and I keep wondering what their conversations must be like at home.
It's just
it's
love talk.
It's
baby
incredible.
Talk, burbling. You don't talk about what you disagree about.
Maybe not. Yeah, it says here George Conway gives constitutional rebuke to Trump's call on Sessions to target his enemies.
What's his job? What does he do?
He's a lawyer.
That's how he makes ends meet.
Yeah, he's a lawyer. Yeah, he's a big time
attorney
lawyer.
at law.
Yes, Conway. Yeah, it says here, judging by the recent profile, where she said that her husband's tweets are a disrespectful violation of decency against President Trump. Yeah, she actually said that, although apparently the comments were supposed to be off the record from her understanding, she claims, but she did publicly say that she finds her own husband's comments disrespectful. Kellyanne Conway probably won't be happy about this at all. George Conway is back on Twitter, and he took notice of Trump's latest online demands that AG Jeff Sessions launch investigations into his various political foes. As we previously noted, Trump seemed to sarcastically praise Sessions for saying justice will not be improperly influenced by political considerations. Mr. Conway isn't shy about raising his objections to the president, and as you can see below, he did it again. Beyond him throwing the Constitution in Trump's face, take note of how he put quotations around the word president. Oh my, this is extra snarky. Okay, so here's what Conway tweeted. At Conway.
Conway Twitty? I thought now we're into country music.
I think he's dead, isn't he?
I was.
This is George Conway. Yes.
I want to know what happened to the lava lamp.
Oh, right.
And why it's wearing a Santa Claus.
Can't even imagine. George Conway, and he's at GT Conway 3D. If you'd like to follow him.
Ooh.
He tweeted, "What everyone should want and the country needs is a quote-unquote president capable of comprehending what it means to, quote, take care that the laws be faithfully executed," unquote.
Ooh,
chills. That is snarky. That wasn't the only thing Conway did online this morning, though. He also mocked Trump and Sessions for deliberately avoiding chances to speak with each other about their problems face to face. This was in response to...
Sounds like the morning show.
Yeah. Ooh. So
little cross marketing here.
Yes. Well,
we love them both.
That's right.
No iron at all.
What's stabbing me in the back?
Elena Treen had.
Elena Treen.
Elena Treen.
Are you making this up?
No, I am not. This is her name. So because Conway responded to her tweet. So Elena Treen tweeted, following Trump and Sessions' war of words yesterday, the two had an awkward meeting at the White House during which they didn't say a word about their confrontation. And while Trump has an aversion to in-person confrontation, he seems to have no problem going after others from behind his phone. So then
he stabs him in the back.
Yes, he does. Yes.
What's stabbing me in the back?
So then George Conway tweeted in response to that, profile encourage. Wow.
Is Peter White the Donald Trump of
very snarky.
Manchester? Or am I getting it wrong?
I don't know.
That goes back to the Egyptian times.
And here's some stuff Conway retweeted as well.
I agree. Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Conway,
I go back to Egyptian times.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm descended from the god Montu.
Oh, well, congratulations on that.
Jeez, you never remember anything I tell you. Maybe, I'm not your partner, so let's forget about that.
Right.
We might have an exciting announcement, though, Monday.
Oh.
Glenn's preparing it.
Glenn is preparing it. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
He's mayor of Africa? He's
now
finally
watch him. It's just like a needle going back to true north. He's going to get right exactly where he was. You can't throw him off.
Oh, here's another. So there's I'm not going to
I did throw you off.
I'm not going to go
the first time I've ever done it.
I'm not going to go through them all because there's a bunch of retweets that George Conway did. Yeah, he was feeling very snarky.
Twittering twits.
But here's his own tweet. This is at the end of the article. He tweeted, "They might say nothing because they might perceive that the system was so strong, its checks and balances so robust, that the quote-unquote president is reduced to lamely tweeting insults at his attorney general with no effect other than to continue to erode his own moral authority."
You mean erode Trump's moral authority?
Yes, I love this guy. George Conway. Kellyanne Conway, if you're listening, you picked a good one.
I don't approve of sexist language like robust, but he is, after all, a Republican, and they get a pass. As a Democrat, I wouldn't be able to use that word.
Right.
I'd have to use vigorous or something.
Oh.
Although that probably, connotes, the male member and the act of love from the male perspective, if we can be so gender specific. So
we're really not
we shouldn't even
supposed to
talk about anything.
In these politically correct times, we're really not supposed to acknowledge gender. We're all just ungendered or something. Hello to Chuck Gosson, who joins us in the Facebook Live chat. We're all
debagged.
That means something else, I think.
Well, it looks like our favorite president is heading for getting debagged. Do you remember the one of the first climax in Goldfinger where they got Sean Connery as James Bond strapped on a sheet of gold, and the laser is coming up? And
says who?
Well, you'd have to watch the movie.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Of course, they shut it off just in time, so he wasn't circumscribed.
Oh, yes, yes. Well, that's good. We would have had to, that group that I interviewed a few weeks ago would have had to show up and intervene.
Well, since it took place in 1964, I don't think, unless you give them the keys to the time travel machine.
That's right.
Yep,
no one gets that.
Right. The dear old pleasure saucer. Who thought it had such powers after they dug it out from Richfield?
Oh. So we mentioned earlier too that this guy Alan Weisselberg.
He is what is he? CFO of the Trump organization?
Yes.
And is that the umbrella?
He's the
organization?
Money guy.
That's it, right? Trump, and that's the apex of the tower.
I believe so. Okay. Yes. So lawandcrime.com reports Trump's numbers guy, Alan Weisselberg, flipped. Here's what it could mean.
But why would he possibly want to do that? So he can make up fake things about the president?
Fred says, I hate it when they shut it off before the climax. Yes, we all hate that, Fred.
Yeah, but Connery had a few more bonds in him.
Oh, my. Rick Gates flipped. Michael Cohen flipped. Paul Manafort was convicted. David Pecker has immunity now. Now, Trump Organization Chief Financial Officer Alan Weisselberg has immunity too, and experts are weighing in on what that might mean. There has been some disagreement on how serious this could be for Trump, considering the distinct possibility, even likelihood, that this immunity deal is limited to the Cohen payments to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal before the election. Law and Crime founder Dan Abrams tweeted that Weisselberg's deal is, quote, with the Southern District of New York, not Mueller's team, and is likely confined to Cohen hush payments, unquote. Abrams believes it is likely, quote, not some broader deep dive into the president's finances.
Yeah, it has to be specific. But it's interesting with Pecker. They say that he has all sorts of information on Trump, scandals that were bought off, plus celebrities. The New York Times, the failing New York Times, according to our favorite president.
Of course, yes.
So I remember we had Dave Colapinto on. His firm representative, Brad Birkenfeld, who was the whistleblower. I mean, Brad Birkenfeld actually changed the Swiss bank secrecy laws. It opens things up, and he was a flipper. $104 million or something like that.
Those flippers. By the way, hello to Ben Dion, who joins us in the Facebook live chat.
But
I just thought of something. What if the moose flipped on Peter, and that's what really happened?
No, well, Glenn says it's something else.
Oh, okay.
I'm not at liberty to discuss it. It's Glenn's province to make the announcement.
Oh, okay.
Keep on stabbing me in the back.
So he's running.
Glenn's ready to stab the moose in the back.
Oh,
but,
my goodness. Wow.
It's all in the interest of truth.
How could anyone do that to the
moose?
moose?
The moose will be back. He just needs to be.
You're optimistic. You think the moose will be back?
Oh, the moose. It's that time of year where they get the velvet on their antlers. He has to, or whatever the hell a moose has on. I guess they're antlers.
Sure.
And, they got to go rub it off on birch trees or something. It's very irritating. And then the velvet's gone, and if Al Baldessera, somebody doesn't shoot him, because he is a moose after all, and he is in season, does Al Baldessera recognize the authority of state game laws?
Would he be shooting him because he's a moose, or because he's a Democrat? Well, because he's also a Democrat.
Oh, geez, and treasonous too.
And he wants to shoot Hillary Clinton, right? So
no, he wanted Hillary Clinton to be shot.
He didn't personally want to, although he'd like
for treason.
I assume he would, if offered the opportunity to personally do that.
No, I don't think Al would do that.
Well, good for you.
But Al, I'm just saying, if the moose gets through the rutting season, gets the velvet off. He'll be back. A beautiful. Do they drop those antlers?
Well, I don't know.
They're always dropping spores.
I don't know much about moose.
I know something about moose, but I don't know if I know about Meese.
Meese?
The Attorney General.
Ed Meese?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Anti-Pornography. Oh, there goes Dean Kamen in his helicopter.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, he never drops by us. He never asks us to flip or hide anything for him.
I'm glad he doesn't ask us to flip. I would hate to. The president would judge us harshly for flipping.
Well, I feel kind of neglected.
Well,
he's our only billionaire. You never hear him running around with
Dean Kamen?
Playboy models or porno stars or anything like that.
That's just not something all billionaires do.
You just hear about the latest stuff he's done for an arm that's helping veterans. I actually saw what he worked on.
Right.
The new arm. It's amazing.
Dean Kamen actually is doing things that help veterans instead of just running his mouth about it.
Can you imagine that? And his father was a Mad Magazine artist and an illustrator.
Oh, no
Jack
kidding, really?
Kamen. Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
When I realized that's who he was, because I have all these, I like comic books and stuff. And, but how come he's never in hijinks that we can get,
So, sounds like he's busy actually doing something helpful with his life, yes.
Making money the honest way.
He clearly could never be president.
Well, he might be flipping, but I don't know what flip.
Who would he
flip your wig?
Who would he flip on?
He might be a Beatles fan.
Are you saying he wears a wig?
He might own a 1964 pristine Beatles board game called Flip Your Wig.
Oh,
my sisters had one.
You mentioned the Beatles. What a perfect segue, because you know who bought the Beatles catalog, of course, Michael Jackson.
Right.
Well, I wanted to, before the top of the hour, I wanted to get this in. This is not a political story, but this is so bizarre. This just popped up this morning on Mediaite, and just kind of like, what? Really? Sony Music denies it released 3 fake Michael Jackson songs. They're being accused of releasing fake Michael Jackson songs.
Would that mean that they're just using like a producer to take his material and recut it? Because, Jimi Hendrix left a tremendous amount of outtakes because he jammed all the time. And what's the guy named? His producer, Douglas, spent years, smooth, creating music from it. But that wasn't controversial at all.
Well, and then there's Tupac, who I think released 36 albums after his death. I might be exaggerating slightly, but
yeah, because there's so much. When a guy like that, they're constantly playing, and I don't know,
and
he's obviously rapping, and you only take like 12 raps or 8, whatever.
And it also always fuels those rumors that he's really secretly alive.
If he is, come to the morning show. We won't be.
Oh, that would be exciting. He could be the new Moose. Well, no, there can never be a new Moose.
We wouldn't want Peter in any peril.
Yes, I shouldn't say.
Keep on stabbing me in the back.
I shouldn't say that. Yeah, I'm sorry, Moose.
Well, you could be considered, stabbing Peter in the back.
Oh, yes. Well, I definitely wouldn't do that.
No violence.
Right. So, a statement from Zia Maudaber. That's quite the name.
You did a good job.
Maudaber?
Better than I could.
Of the law firm Catton Muchen Rosenberg LLP, which is representing Sony Music, said in a statement, quote, "No one has conceded that Michael Jackson did not sing on the songs. The hearing Tuesday was about whether the First Amendment protects Sony Music and the estate, and there has been no ruling on the issue whose voice is on the recordings," unquote. Not exactly a denial. Court documents obtained by the hip-hop news site Karen Civil via Vibe magazine seem to show that Sony admitted to putting out 3 songs which they claimed were performed by Michael Jackson, but were actually recorded by an imposter.
No kidding.
The songs...
Milli Vanilli on steroids. We'll have to have Glenn in to address that, too.
Glenn would be uniquely qualified to address that.
Oh, yeah.
Most people won't know the reference, but the few of you who do probably find that hilarious. The songs in question are Monster, Keep Your Head Up, and Breaking News, which appeared on the 2010 album Michael, released after the singer's 2009 death. The issue has been brought to light thanks to a lawsuit filed on behalf of a Jackson fan named Vera Servoa against Jackson's fans and a production company whom Servoa alleges created and sold the phony songs through Sony. Servoa claims that a Jackson impersonator named Jason Malachi recorded the fake songs. Wow.
Is that the guy that played Chachi on Joni Loves Chachi?
The guy who played Chachi? That was Scott Baio.
Oh, a Trump supporter.
How dare you? Scott Baio is a Trump supporter, yes.
Wasn't Joni Loves Chachi Paul Cormier's favorite show when he was a youth?
I do believe that is true. Paul Cormier loves Joni Loves Chachi.
Of course, Paul and you never did have a youth because of the Studio 54 episode,
yes,
where you met Roy Cohn.
We met Roy. That's how we first met Glenn R.J. Willett as well.
And Patrick Swayze.
Yes.
Marsha.
It seems like it was so long ago.
That goes back to the Egyptian times.
So long ago. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you probably met Queen Farouk or somebody too.
Queen Farouk.
An original, what do you call it? Disco artiste. Hey, here. Oh, geez, it just went out. Waiting all this time. A flip your wig game. $122.50. Come on, baby. $122.50.
What is that, flip your wig?
It was a game, 1964, when the Beatles invasion. My sisters had it.
Oh.
My mother threw it out, I remember, like 10 years later,
Oh.
It wasn't really worth much even in 1974. But $122.50 it'll bring. I bet Dean Kamen could, inundate the entire city with flip your wig games.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, you can flip honestly if you play flip your wig.
Right. Yes. Let's take a moment here. We'll just take a very quick top of the hour break, but I want to share this Alabama pastor speaking in tongues in defense of Trump.
Oh, Matt, you're gonna get. You know who's gonna call in? The Reverend James P. Shannon.
Oh my goodness! Wow, it'd be lovely to hear from him. Here, let's enjoy this.
What's happening right now in America is witchcraft's trying to take this country over.
Have you ever seen anything like this before?
I'm not being political.
Nobody's seen this for 100 years.
But I don't see how President Trump bears up under it. But here's what the Holy Spirit said to me last night, and here's what he said for me to tell you. He said, tell the church. Come on, help me out right now. I want you to lift your voice. Everybody, help me pray. We got to pray for this man.
How dare you say that?
Keep him, Lord, with your keeping power.
How's that for a quick break? Hey, everybody, it's hour number 2 of Matt Connarton Unleashed in the Afternoon. We are live on WMNH 95.3 FM. Join us, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. Jon Hopwood is here as well. And,
hey, breaking news.
Breaking news!
The president
is
has
resigning.
told Secretary of State Pompeo to cancel the North Korea visit.
I did
because
see
he
that.
has more important things to do, namely defending the white settlers of South Africa.
Oh, yes. Good.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm glad he has his priorities.
Oh, yeah.
That's wonderful. I did see that, yes. That he told Pompeo, never mind, which I'm confused about.
The greatest feather in his cap. Like, what was it, Colonel Cathcart in Catch-22? He always saw everything in terms of black eyes or feathers in your cap.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be our illustrious favorite president. Let's not use.
Oh, absolutely. He's my favorite president, of course.
We all know he's a favorite president. He certainly looks in the at the world from a perspective best, I would say, laid out for the world in the great novel Catch-22.
Yes.
There's only one catch, and that was Catch-22.
That's right, yes.
And what was Catch-22? Well, remember Yossarian, the bombardier, was being driven insane because Colonel Cathcart kept raising the number of missions.
Yes.
So they tell them, you have to read the novel there.
Yeah.
I prefer Joel with the Egyptian Times.
I read it in high school.
I read it every couple of years.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
That goes back to the Egyptian times.
But Catch-22 is not set in Egyptian times.
That was the art. But it goes. Catch-22 goes back to Egyptian times. But remember what was it? Dr. Nika tells him, if you are mentally ill from doing too many missions, if you're crazy, I have to ground you. But you have to ask me to ground you. And he asked him to ground him because he's crazy. And Dr. Nika says, now I can't ground you because anybody that would ask to be grounded rather than fly those missions can't be crazy.
Right.
And they says,
Catch-22.
I remember he says, that's some catch, that Catch-22. And Dr. Nika says, it's the best there is. The bureaucratic mindset of,
yes,
it's a labyrinth you're never going to escape from. And that's where Donald Trump is, in a labyrinth of his own creation. He is the Minotaur.
It is true. All his problems are self-inflicted.
Oh, yeah. He's not one to learn or, it's sad. And it's a tragedy for the entire country. But I hope we use this time, which we know Americans never will, to look at our political process, which really is rickety and broken down and doesn't work.
By the way, not to bring everybody down, but
because it is Friday.
It is Friday, but we should. I just feel like I should acknowledge some sad news. Senator John McCain has opted to discontinue medical treatment in his battle with brain cancer. So
yeah, I saw that when I was at the VA, and it actually he felt like some tears in my eyes because I interviewed him a few times, and I've criticized him harshly.
Yes,
but that he was a significant and important person and a voice, unfortunately, in the wilderness now.
Yeah,
and it's sad. I actually felt sad when I heard, because we know what that means,
right? And
I had.
Yeah.
I felt like welling up in my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, for as long as I've been alive, John McCain has been. It seems like has been active in Well, maybe not literally as long as I've been alive, but it seems that way.
Right. And this ignoramus, on his way to being your favorite president.
Oh, on his way. He already is.
Insulted John McCain.
Yes.
For being a prisoner of war. Now, I explained when we were on the TV show after mine that the attitude towards the POW of the time. But, that it was a disgrace, which many things in the old days are considered. If a woman was raped, it was a disgrace to her and her family and all that. But I actually, but then you learn. You talk to people. There's a POW office up at the VA here, and explained to me, what those guys went through was horrific.
Yeah.
And they were casualties of war.
Mm-hmm.
But see, I learned that because remember I told you, because I was brought up by a World War II vet, and his father was a World War I combat vet. And there was that attitude, and then there was this thing, Nixon made the POWs heroes because, he had no heroes from Vietnam. But, of course, that war, until the recent oil wars, went on forever, it seemed. It's not like the 3 years we were in World War II, or less the 18 months in World War I. And for him to say something like that was truly shocking. But, the full impact didn't come to me for a long time afterwards when I addressed it. So I can learn, but our favorite president, oh, man.
Yeah.
It's beyond belief.
By the way,
who was a draft dodger, literally a draft dodger.
Yeah. And there's thehill.com has a story up, lawmakers offer support for McCain after he discontinues cancer treatment. I mean, McCain, obviously, a lot of friends on both sides of the aisle in Congress.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, we all know who has not said anything, and I assume will not say anything.
Because we won't get into the...
hello to
national disgrace,
Miriam Banash in the Facebook live chat. Hello, Miriam.
I feel such compassionate for Melania, not just because she calls in. Only one time while I was here, I seem to always miss her.
Yes,
and that must be the problems with the impermeable wall that we don't have in the fourth floor.
I've still never seen the two of you in the same room at the same time.
Well, you weren't invited to, the fire station.
Very strange.
Yeah. No, I do feel sorry for her.
Yeah.
Well, I like her. The more I find out about her, the more I respect her, and I feel compassion for her. What she's going through and her son.
Yeah.
But it's brought on by this, you fill in the blank. I've criticized MSNBC and CNN for their coverage and a lot of the hyperbole covering Trump, but so he brought it on himself.
Yes, absolutely.
Does his behavior make sense to you? You've been trying to make sense of his behavior. Where I just say, oh, Jesus, that's just him. He's a clown or a performer. But I did defend him because he was a successful businessman on his own terms.
Mm-hmm.
Bankruptcies were part of that.
Yes.
Using money laundered through Europe, if indeed that happened, or Russian. There's plenty of companies that have done that.
By the way, FEMA has updated its U.S. nuclear disaster plans, so that's exciting. So,
do they still use the 7.5-inch floppies, or no? That's that's NORAD.
Yes, but it is exciting news if you're interested in surviving a nuclear exchange.
To be serious, I bet that the reason they still have those floppies is it'd be harder to compromise them. But
that makes sense, actually. Yeah.
How much does it take to send a missile?
Right.
On its merry way.
According to thehill.com, Omarosa says she is ready to testify at Trump impeachment trial.
Oh man, she is angling for a book deal. Where's all?
She already has a book deal. She already has a book out.
Where's all the tidbits?
Unhinged.
She wants another one too, I guess.
Oh, I'm sure she does. I'm sure she's chomping at the bit. Says,
is she stabbing? I have a question. Is she stabbing the president in the back?
She absolutely stabbed the president in the back.
Stabbing me in the back?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's very
she's
upsetting.
Flipped on him.
Yes,
there's other types of.
She's a flipper. Yes, and the president does not respect that.
Isn't the flip a hairstyle from like the '60s or something?
I'm not old enough to know.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, it says here she's ready anytime, any place to appear as a witness against Trump, including a potential Senate impeachment trial. She
which
would
is never
love
going to
that.
happen.
Now, you don't think so? What if the Democrats win the midterms?
You can impeach. It takes 50% plus 1 to impeach a president. What does it take? 2/3 to convict. So
Right. Well, they can impeach without removal. I mean, that's what happened to Clinton.
Yeah, and the threat of impeachment. But I was watching one Republican who was a friend of McCain and his congressman. I guess he was a congressman back when McCain was a congressman. I didn't. What's his name? Jolly or something?
David Jolly?
And he's saying, yeah, the Democrats should be campaigning on impeachment because it's reached that level.
From Florida, right? David Jolly's from Florida, I think. Yeah.
I really didn't. I've never heard of him before.
If I'm thinking of the right guy, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really follow the Republican Party that closely, but he's one of the people saying it's an impeachable offense. He is an unindicted co-conspirator or co-felon or whatever.
But they have to get him on more than a campaign violation for that.
It's high crimes and misdemeanor. It's only they went after.
I mean, they
went after Bill Clinton on lying in an Arkansas courtroom in a civil case. So tell me about, come on.
Yeah, well, they went after him.
Talk about a misdemeanor.
On perjury. I mean, it was perjury. And no one is above the law.
Which happened, and he was disbarred.
Yes, he was disbarred and impeached. Just not removed.
But, it was contextualized. But, and, the Democrats made a big mistake in letting that slide. You have to admit that.
What do you mean?
Well, they had driven Senator Bob Packwood, who was a liberal Republican from Oregon, out of the Senate on similar charges.
That's true.
The Clinton White House was a pervasive climate of sexual harassment.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes, absolutely.
And,
well, these attitudes, they start at the top.
We found out from Linda Tripp's lawyer that Paula Jones got $900,000. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Because the media didn't go after that. Because they're just horrible women going after a powerful man. What was it that Mary Matlin's husband said? The
James Carville,
Cajun?
the Raging Cajun.
They're just white. They're just trash, and that's your Democratic Party. And then when you have Hillary Clinton, when all the stuff's coming out about Trump, grab him by the and stuff like that. Well, guess what? To a vast majority, I'd say not a vast majority, but a vast group of people that aren't invested in the myth of the Clintons or whatever, they could see the hypocrisy.
Of course.
Yes. And then when they're the Trump Foundation, there was many questions about the Clinton organization.
Yes.
So they lowered the standards when it came to sexual harassment and personal, using office for political gain. They lowered the bar so much that it was like a limbo dance, and it took the two-dimensional Donald Trump, who's got as much depth as a piece of paper, to go under that. But he did.
And we have a call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton, Unleashed in the Afternoon. Who's this?
I'm afraid you're stuck with Ridley again.
Dave Ridley from the Ridley Report. Dave, I'm so happy to be stuck with you. Yes, it's true.
You.
Yes. But I just to be clear, I mean that in the most heterosexual way possible.
Yes. Laughter, nervous laughter.
Yes. What do you have for us today, Dave Ridley?
I have I guess the Liberty Block has posted this observation regarding current events.
Oh.
Quote, the first police department in NH to begin using automatic license plate readers on their vehicles was Lincoln. Their police chief has just been suspended indefinitely for releasing confidential information, unquote.
I thought that the state legislature had already dealt with that years ago, that we weren't getting, that we weren't going to be using those in the state at all. Or maybe it was just the state police weren't going to be allowed to use them, the license plate readers.
Well, these things get slapped down, over time. But it's like that Clint Eastwood movie where the terrorist says, well, you have to be lucky all the time. I only have to be lucky once.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The government, being the actual terrorists we have to live under, they can try and try again until they get it right, and then they're in forever.
Yeah. So just to be clear, so they started using that in Lincoln, and then the police chief there had released information publicly and now has been fired?
He's been put on, I guess, what they called indefinite leave. And, I don't know I'm not sure precisely how many connections there are between license plate readers and being able to collect data on people.
Mm-hmm.
But I would guess there are some connections. And if you think, well, it's just the government's reading my license plate, but no one else is going to see it. Well, apparently, this guy had different ideas about whether people should see confidential information that he was privy to.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it says, actually, there's an article in the Union Leader from back in June, new tool for New Hampshire police, license plate readers. So I guess if I am correct that the state legislature had dealt with that at one point and made that illegal, there must have been some kind of reversal or a loophole found or something. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly, but maybe they had voted on it but had never actually, enacted anything that said that they would not be used here. But
well, it's pretty easy for when you're the bureaucracy and you're setting the rules for how the bureaucracies will behave. It's pretty easy to set good, nice rules for the bureaucracy. They make it pretty easy for the bureaucracy.
Right.
And you can, if there is a legislative question, you have to avoid, breaking some law or whatnot. Well, you can just always send your minions to the State House on the taxpayers' dime to lobby against the taxpayers. And
in your
so
opinion,
you wind up with when you go to the State House. I always say I can't go to the State House like on a busy day without bumping into a cop who is there to lobby against your freedoms. And
well,
they're doing it.
That's
paid.
Come on. You want to live in anarchy? Like I tell you, why don't you go to Afghanistan? Join up, become a mercenary thing. Go stake a fortune, in Africa at a cobalt mine or something. Come on.
Well,
it's hyperbole.
You're making a straw man.
You're making a
argument,
ridiculous
John.
argument.
I'm not an advocate
Cops
of anarchy.
cops are all against us. Come on. You've never lived in a place which is with anarchy. I know plenty of people have been through hellholes with no police. I know people that grew up in the Soviet Union, police states, then the collapse of the Russia, and the thing where there are no police. Come on. Every cop
John,
up there is just an
of all,
enemy of the people.
First of all, I was in Bosnia when the government collapsed there.
And what were you doing in Bosnia?
So I have some idea of
what were you doing in Bosnia?
That kind of situation looks like. But I'm not an advocate of anarchy. I agree with you that I don't think anarchy works.
What were you in Bosnia? I'd be interested.
Why was I there?
Yeah.
Oh, film documentaries.
Oh, yeah. Be interesting to talk about that.
Actually, it would be, yeah.
But, so, you're making a point, but, I'm not Mr. Law and Order myself, but.
Yes. But I did find this.
Here it is about use of number plate scanning. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, there's an article on UnionLeader.com.
Repealed in 26. Repealed?
Well,
2016.
Kevin Landrigan has an article on UnionLeader.com from back in June that starts. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says New Hampshire's law enforcement's 10-year campaign to be granted the power to automatically look at and record all license plates ended successfully this week with state-of-the-art cameras mounted atop a Lincoln Police Department cruiser. So they were. So Lincoln was the first ones to do this. And the police chief in question is quoted in the article, Ted Smith. He says, "We're very excited about this, and it's been quite a while in coming." So.
Well, it is kind of Orwellian. I'll grant you that, Dave.
Yeah.
It's disturbing because, they have all these regulations of how, you have to go, there's certain parameters that the law enforcement can use, which are restricted, and then what they're going to do with the information. And as we can see, like in federal law, 1963, what was it, Brady v. Maryland, where a prosecutor is supposed to give to somebody that was convicted any exculpatory information that comes to them, like, hey, after all, you really aren't guilty, that it is not honored at all. So you have a point there.
A little further in the article, too, just to give it some context, it says some privacy advocates are not happy that lawmakers decided in 2016 to end. Oh, okay, that's what happened. They decided to end New Hampshire's status as the only state in the country with a law that prohibited using automatic license plate readers.
Yeah, I thought we still had that.
Yeah, no, apparently that went away in 2016. State Representative J.R. Hole of Dunbarton said, quote, I find the use of these license plate scanners for any purpose to be abhorrent and not in our New Hampshire tradition. There's no other way to describe what this is other than an intrusion into someone's privacy, unquote.
Well, that's the thing, because it's supposed to be restricted. They have all these things. If it's a murder, if it's in the vicinity of a crime and people are going. But, this thing is indiscriminate, and it's all going to be in a server, I guess, at the New Hampshire Department of Justice. And they have to then, petition or ask, law enforcement, the Attorney General, to get the information. But,
So, Dave, do you know, what kind of information this police chief released and where and how and all that?
The article I read was vague about it. It said that the matter was considered civil or something, or personnel matter as opposed to a criminal matter.
Right, which they used to shut you up.
The chief had been released for some sort of release of confidential information, but they didn't specify what the information was. Now, this article may be 3 months old for all I know, and it may be that there's more information more recently.
Yeah. Well, regardless, though, it's good to know. I had no idea that the prohibition against using those plate readers had been repealed in New Hampshire. So, if nothing else, now we know. I also had no idea until now that we were the only state, had been the only state in the country that didn't allow these. But apparently, it's like the Borg. We have assimilated.
This would be a really interesting
Resistance
subject.
is futile. Yeah.
Because when you read the new law, there's so many they're really going to do that. They're supposed to, any image is supposed to be purged from the system within 3 minutes.
Oh, we know that doesn't happen.
Why are you tagging him?
Right.
Why would you have to go through a process of going to the Department of Justice to get the information?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it ain't Snapchat. That certainly. Well, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. This is really.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went off.
I lost you there for a second. Are you still with me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm with you, Dave. I'm reading the law, and it's...
Yes.
You should call in after we read this law. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, now we know. Dave, anything else on your mind today?
Oh, I like to always suggest some positive action as opposed to just complaining.
Yes.
So the very small positive action you can take if you're upset about this, as I am, would be to drop by NH Cop Block on Facebook and join the NH Cop Block Facebook group.
Very good.
And add your name to the list of...
Of what?
You don't think that list is of interest to law enforcement officials?
Oh, probably. I'm sure they keep an eye on it. I'm sure they
do,
well, as they
too.
say, if we're all on the list, none of us are on the list.
That's a good point. All right, Dave.
Yeah.
Well, please plug the Ridley Report before you go.
Ridley Report. Nesto, Ridley Report. that would be Ridley Report in Bosnian.
Wow, the Bosnian remix. I like it.
Be interested in talking to you about that, too.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that sometime. All right, Dave Ridley. Well, thank you very much for the call, my friend, and have a good weekend.
Okay, bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. All right, Dave Ridley leaves us.
They're also being used to identify vehicles registered to persons whose driver's license, privileges, or legislations are under suspension or revocation. That doesn't quite sound like, a big bank robbery or something has just happened.
Right. Yeah.
Geez, I'll tell you.
Big Brother is watching.
With the technology that they have in computers, I don't even know if they call it computer technology anymore, the brain you could put in just a police car, what it can do, matching all this.
Yes.
And then it's stunning. We don't have any privacy at all,
That's right.
And I'd warn people that are on social media, you're surrendering everything about you. All that information's collected. They run it through, all the psychographics and anything. Boom, boom, boom. And who knows, someday they might be able to use that to prevent the crime by grabbing you before you commit it.
Oh, like in Minority Report.
Right.
Yes.
Philip Dick.
Yeah.
Are you stabbing me in the back?
I would never do such a thing.
Keep on stabbing me in the back.
The only one getting stabbed around here is Moose.
You're always criticizing my claims to or denigrating my claims that I am descended from Montu.
Yes.
That goes back to the Egyptian times.
I do.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Right on the west side. We go back to Egyptian times.
Wow.
I told Connie Van Houten that the other day because I thought she might be descended from an owl.
Because you're pissing me off.
Well, that's very upsetting. My goodness, getting a little blue. We don't need to work blue here, Moose.
Peter is not this good. Peter's not as efficient on the dump button as you are.
No, you can get away with that on FM radio. Oh, no, you can. You can. It's one of those gray zone words. You can't use it excessively. Hello to Christian Cunard, who joins us in the Facebook live chat and says hello.
Is she of the Cunard line fame, or was? Now the Titanic wasn't a Cunard liner, was it? It was a White Line or something. I remember there was all this Titanic mania 20 years ago. But there was a song. We'll have to learn it and sing it about the Titanic.
My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion.
It was sad.
The great Chanteuse.
So sad.
Or Chartreuse.
When the big ship went down.
Chartreuse, isn't it?
I think the Titanic, now known as His Majesty Trump, is about to sink into the waves.
Yes, as we discussed earlier in the show.
He'll break up. And then we'll finally find out if that flip hairdo of him is real.
Well, I don't like flippers. That's for sure.
Who does?
Right.
They wind up at Sparks. They're getting out of their Cadillac at Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan, and
it should be almost illegal.
Yeah,
flipping.
John Gotti was doing a public service. He was getting rid of the Gambino boss.
Right.
Yeah, Gambino means, that arc that comes with some fingers that came right into New Hampshire many, many years ago.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we are just about out of time. Of course, on Fridays, we wrap up a little bit early because Granite State of Mind is coming up at 6 p.m., hosted by the great Rob Azevedo. And Rob usually has some live bands come in and play. So we have to give them some, give them an opportunity to get set up. And believe me.
And we hope all of you this weekend have a gay old time.
Well, I don't want to encourage that.
We'll have a do time, a yabba do time. We'll have a gay old time.
I don't think we should go down that road. That threatens the very fabric of the American family. How dare you?
And
everyone's going to turn gay.
Our hearts go out to the moose who is being bedeviled by the velvet on his antlers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I feel terrible about that.
Keep on stabbing me in the back.
But R.I.P. Moose. And it is truly the end of an era.
It's not over.
But the morning show continues. The morning show with Peter White, which you can hear, of course, weekdays, 7 to 9 a.m. right here on WMNH 95.3. And, of course, Matt Connarton Unleashed in the afternoon, weekdays, 4 to 6 p.m. Or, like I said, Fridays we wrap a little bit early. But you can, if you miss any part of the show or any of the shows here on WMNH, like the Weekly Die-On or Granite State of Mind or anything at all, you can find them in the archive at WMNHradio.org. Just hit the podcast link, and it will take you there. And you can enjoy the content at your leisure. So, and with that, thank you, Dave Ridley, for the call. Thank you, Jon Hopwood. And
thank you.
Thank you, Fred Bonig from thedailyripple.org for calling earlier. Fred just sent me a song we'll use to finish up the show as it's topical. Harry Chapin. It's called Dance Band on the Titanic. Do you like Harry Chapin?
He died after playing at BU when I was there. Yeah.
He died right after playing there? Was he? Did you have something to do with it? Did you murder Harry Chapin?
No.
Oh,
I blame.
I thought you were confessing to something.
I blame the organization.
Right.
That's what they used to remember. It was called the organization.
All right. Well, very good. Yes. All right. So that's it.
The syndicate. That was the big thing in the 60s on the TV. Oh, he's with the syndicate.
Oh, the syndicate. Wow.
I think that Trump syndicated his show, didn't they? Proof. We got the proof right there.
Syndicated what show?
The show where he's firing people.
Oh, The Apprentice? That's on NBC. Is that in syndication? It might be.
Omarosa.
Oh, wow.
Is it?
Is it? I don't know.
Would you know if it was or wasn't if they didn't want you to?
That's an excellent point.
are newspapers still on paper in the archives, or have they been digitized, which means change the news?
That's true. They could have been hacked.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, we got to get out of here. Thanks, everybody.
The icebergs on the starboard bow. Won't you